Welcome to your LSAT crash course. Welcome to 99rights_online. If you're looking to sharpen your skills, stay focused, and crush this test, you're in the right place. Let's dive into some quick and effective tips to help you master the LSAT. First things first, remember the instructions are the same for every single test. Consistency is key. When tackling those long passages, usually about 2,000 words cut down to 300, you want to read actively. And when I say active reading, I mean annotating. Find the main point of view, tone, key arguments, and definitions. Don't stress over unfamiliar words. They're either explained or you can infer their meaning. Trust me, it's all in the passage. Main point or purpose questions. These require you to read between the lines. Implied in the LSAT means suggest without saying it directly. Inferred in the LSAT means forming a conclusion about something the author has not told or stated, but making logical conclusions from things they have stated. To think about it in a more simple way, try this. Conclusion can be called the main idea, which is also the main point. It breaks down to what the author hopes to say. Purpose is the same as what the author hopes to accomplish by saying it. Now let's talk red flags and signal words. Here are some that demand your attention. Words like additionally, furthermore, and because add support to an argument. Words like but, although, or however signal a shift in thought. Underline these as you read. They're your clues to understanding the author's logic. The LSAT loves to challenge you with certain question types. For example, what's the author's main point? What's the primary purpose of this passage? Or what's the author implying? For these, always think critically about the argument structure and its why and what. Remember, if a statement is presented as true, accept it as such and analyze from there. Logical reasoning sections are all about dissecting arguments. Premises are the why, and conclusions are the what. If you can spot these two, you're halfway there. Let's talk about the question types. What is the author's main point? What is the author's purpose in writing? What is the author implying in this passage? What can be inferred from this passage? Which of the following supports weakens? Remember, you are looking at an idea from the author's perspective. Must be true, is true. Assume idea or conclusion of author is true, and then analyze the new information must not be true. Assume idea or conclusion of author is false, and then analyze the new information based on ideas not available in the statement. Here's a pro tip. The LSAT is designed to make you choose wrong. Eliminate the bad choices first and base your answer on the passage, not your life experiences. Watch out for trap answers, especially those with extreme words like always, must, or never. If the wording doesn't align with the passage, toss it out. Also, beware of answers with new information not included in the original argument. Stick to the logic of the question. Let's talk about flawed reasoning questions. These usually have a red herring answer to trip you up. They can rely on a false or unjustified idea. They refer to logic in the argument that is not illogical. They also appeal and assume that the author did no such thing. You also know you have a flawed question when the author fails to use exact data or other causes in the stimulus. For parallel reasoning questions, compare the argument structure in the passage and the answer choices. The logic has to match, and any mismatch should get ruled out. When selecting your answer, the first selection you can consider the standard all new possible right answer selections should be tested against this standard. Also, if new information is in an answer choice, it is most likely a wrong answer selection. Most importantly, judge only based on the logic of the statement of question. But let us not forget about if-then conditional statements to break it down. If can also be called hypothesis, or the evidence, and then can be called the conclusion. Another thing to understand the difference between necessary conditions, which must exist, and sufficient conditions, which guarantee an outcome. Now let's take a moment to clear up any confusion about necessary conditions and sufficient conditions. Necessary. Those that must be present for a certain outcome to occur, or something must be true for something else to occur. means that one thing must exist or be true, condition A for another thing, condition B, to be possible. However, having that necessary condition alone isn't always enough. Sufficient conditions means that if something happens, it guarantees a specific result. It's like a complete recipe for something to occur. If the sufficient condition is met, you can be sure the outcome will happen. Means that if one thing happens, condition A, it guarantees that another thing happens, condition B. In other words, A is enough to make B happen. Some questions will ask you to strengthen or weaken an argument. For these, you'll need to identify the key assumption the argument relies on. For questions that ask for an answer that most strengthens an argument, the correct answer statement must make the argument stronger. For underlying assumption questions, the correct answer statement must make the argument fall apart. Assumptions cannot be stated in the main argument. For paradox questions, focus on resolving any conflicting facts in the passage. The correct answer will bridge the gap logically. For paradox questions, the stimulus can be an argument if it has a conclusion. The stimulus can also present facts, with no conclusion drawn from them. This is not an argument, but still a stimulus. Guessing is better than leaving a question blank. If two answers contradict each other, then one of those is most likely correct. But only eliminate or choose an answer if you would bet $5 on it. Stick to your first choice once you've ruled out the bad answers. And when you're preparing, take multiple practice tests, some timed, some open book. Build your stamina and strategy for the big day. Following a simple testing pattern to prepare, such as 1. Take a practice test, open book. No time constraints. 2. Take a practice test, open book. With time constraints. 3. Take a practice test, not open book, with time constraints. Basically, determine what score you need and keep taking practice tests till you meet that score. Just remember to keep in mind when reading through the reading comprehension section, you may need to answer those questions later. So be on the hunt for the author's main point, the author's point of view, the author's tone, the author's key arguments and definitions. So folks, there you have it, your LSAT crash course in a nutshell. Prepare, practice, and stay confident. This is a mental marathon, so worry about questions, then time, then your strategy. Most importantly, focus on making answer predictions before reviewing the listed options. Spend only as much time as necessary to achieve your desired score. Rather than hunting for isolated facts, seek the answer that directly addresses the question and aligns logically, potentially as a true or false statement. And remember, did the answer that you chose answer your question, regardless of the information presented? Prioritize answering the specific question rather than getting distracted by extraneous details. The question is straightforward. The challenge lies in the answers provided. For more strategies, check out LSAT Hacks and LSAT Prep on our playlist. Unpacking the LSAT 2025. Also, remember to study smarter, not harder. Good luck and go ace that test. Smash that like button, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram and YouTube at 99rights_online for more legal quickies. Catch you later. And remember, knowledge is power. Stay informed, stay empowered, and keep fighting for what's right. See you next time. Liked this? If you found this information helpful and inspiring, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with your friends or family.